Welcome to the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast, where we guide you through everything you need to know for your certification exam. Whether you're just starting or looking to refine your knowledge, this course will set you up for success. Brought to you by baremetalcyber.com. Let's get started. Governance in the cloud is about more than rules and restrictions. It is about ensuring that operations remain consistent, secure, and auditable as an organization grows. Without governance, environments drift, teams configure resources in conflicting ways, and risks emerge silently. Effective governance provides the structure to balance agility with control. In Amazon Web Services, governance means codifying best practices so they are applied automatically rather than manually enforced. For beginners, it helps to think of governance as the blueprint for building a safe city. Each building may be unique, but the roads, utilities, and codes ensure everything functions together securely. One of the core governance practices is the multi-account model. Instead of placing all workloads in one account, organizations create separate accounts for production, development, testing, and even specialized functions like logging. This isolates environments, reducing the blast radius of mistakes or compromises. If a test account is breached, production remains safe. Beginners should think of this like keeping valuables in separate safes. Even if one safe is cracked, the others remain intact. Multi-account strategies create boundaries that limit damage and improve accountability. AWS Organizations provides the structure to manage those multiple accounts. Within organizations, accounts can be grouped into organizational units, or OUs, which inherit policies applied at higher levels. This hierarchy allows administrators to apply broad rules across entire groups while still leaving flexibility at lower levels. Beginners should imagine this as a family tree, where rules set by parents cascade to children but can be tailored along the way. Organizational units ensure governance scales naturally without requiring constant individual attention. Service control policies, or SCPs, are one of the most powerful features of AWS Organizations. SCPs act as preventative guardrails, restricting what accounts and users can do regardless of their permissions. For example, an SCP might forbid disabling CloudTrail logging or launching resources in unapproved regions. Even administrators within those accounts are bound by the SCP. For learners, SCPs function like laws in a country. No matter what authority a local official claims, they cannot override national law. This makes SCPs a critical governance tool for maintaining control at scale. Landing zones provide the starting architecture for governed environments. AWS Control Tower automates the creation of landing zones by provisioning accounts, applying guardrails, and establishing a secure baseline. This ensures that every new account starts with the same standards: logging enabled, security services integrated, and policies in place. Beginners should think of this as a starter kit for building houses. Every foundation includes plumbing, wiring, and fire alarms before customization begins. Control tower and landing zones prevent misconfigurations by design. Identity management is another pillar of governance. AWS Identity Center, formerly known as Single Sign-On, provides centralized control over user access across accounts. Paired with role-based access, it ensures that users only assume the privileges they need. Beginners should imagine an office where employees swipe a single badge, but can only enter the rooms appropriate for their jobs. Identity Center simplifies access while enforcing consistency, removing the sprawl of separate accounts and passwords. Least privilege remains one of the most important principles in identity governance. This means granting only the minimum permissions needed to perform a task. AWS supports this through groups, permission boundaries, and attribute-based access control, or ABAC, where tags define permissions dynamically. For learners, least privilege is like lending someone your car keys only for the weekend and only for one car, not handing them the keys to every vehicle you own. It prevents unnecessary risk while still enabling productivity. Network segmentation is equally vital for security and governance. Virtual private clouds, or VPCs, allow administrators to design separate network zones for different workloads. Endpoints can be used to keep traffic private, reducing reliance on the public internet. Beginners should see this as city zoning, where residential areas, commercial centers, and industrial zones are separated for safety and order. Segmentation reduces the chance that a single flaw will compromise everything. Encryption should be the default state of data, not an afterthought. Using KMS keys for encryption at rest and AWS Certificate Manager for encryption in transit ensures data is protected consistently. Beginners should think of this as requiring every door to have a lock and every conversation to be spoken in code. Encryption by default removes the chance of human error, leaving sensitive information exposed, embedding security into the system itself. Logging is the foundation of accountability. By enabling organization-wide CloudTrail trails and directing logs into a centralized S3 bucket, organizations ensure that every action is recorded. Centralized logging prevents tampering and creates a single, trusted record for audits and investigations. For learners, logs are the equivalent of surveillance cameras. They don't stop incidents, but they make sure nothing happens in secret. Without centralized logging, governance has no reliable evidence. Monitoring transforms raw data into meaningful signals. With CloudWatch alarms and dashboards, organizations can track key metrics and respond to anomalies. Instead of waiting for users to complain about outages or breaches, automated monitoring provides real-time awareness. Beginners should see monitoring as the smoke detectors in a building, always active, alerting staff immediately when something is wrong. Governance without monitoring is blind oversight. Detective controls ensure systems are continuously checked against defined standards. AWS config rules and conformance packs evaluate resources for compliance with best practices and regulatory frameworks. For example, a rule might flag unencrypted databases or publicly accessible buckets. Beginners should see detective controls as inspectors making regular rounds, catching violations before they cause disasters. Config and conformance packs codify expectations so that compliance is automatic rather than reactive. Change management is another key governance practice. Infrastructure as Code, or IAC, allows changes to be defined, reviewed, and versioned before being applied. This makes every modification auditable and reduces the chance of accidental misconfigurations. Review gates, such as pull requests, ensure another set of eyes evaluates changes before deployment. For learners, this is like requiring a building permit before making structural changes. It slows things down slightly but ensures safety and consistency. Finally, governance requires robust backup and disaster recovery planning. Backups must not only exist but be tested regularly to confirm they can be restored. Recovery plans should be documented and rehearsed so teams know their roles during an incident. Beginners should see this as fire drills for data. The time to practice is before the fire, not during it. Backup and DR ensure that when the unexpected happens, organizations recover quickly and confidently rather than improvising under stress. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Governance also depends on maintaining a disciplined approach to vulnerability management. Amazon Inspector provides automated vulnerability scans of EC2 instances, container images, and Lambda functions, while a regular patch cadence ensures known flaws are fixed quickly. Vulnerabilities often appear faster than teams can manually address them, so automation becomes essential. Beginners should see vulnerability management as preventative maintenance for a car. If oil changes and brake checks are skipped, small problems become major hazards. In cloud environments, skipping patches leaves doors open for attackers, undermining all other governance efforts. Posture aggregation is the role of AWS Security Hub. It collects findings from guard duty, inspector, Macy, and other services, presenting them as dashboards and security scores. This helps leaders see at a glance whether the organization is trending toward stronger or weaker compliance. Beginners should think of this as a health report that combines blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight into a single view of wellness. Each metric matters individually, but together they tell a fuller story. Security Hub ensures no piece of information is siloed or forgotten. Data protection requires both encryption and awareness of sensitive content. Amazon Macy scans S3 buckets to detect personally identifiable information, such as credit card numbers or healthcare records, while S3's own security features block public access and object ownership, prevent accidental exposure. Beginners should think of this as having both a lock on the safe and an inspector who regularly checks whether sensitive items are stored there. Protecting data means not only encrypting it, but also ensuring it is not placed in risky locations. At the edge of the network, AWS WAF, Shield, and Firewall Manager combine to defend against application attacks and distributed denial-of-service incidents. WAF filters web traffic, Shield absorbs volumetric floods, and Firewall Manager enforces rules consistently across accounts. Beginners should imagine this as layered defenses around a castle, guards at the gates, thick walls against armies, and a central command coordinating it all. Governance requires edge protection because without it, even well-secured applications can be overwhelmed before they have a chance to respond. Cost governance is another important dimension. AWS Budgets allows administrators to set spending thresholds and alerts, while Cost Explorer provides visual breakdowns of where money is going. Resource tags can tie costs back to specific projects or departments, improving accountability. Beginners should think of this as balancing a household budget. Without tracking, expenses spiral out of control. In cloud environments, cost visibility is part of security governance because financial waste can be as damaging as technical misconfigurations. Access reviews ensure that identities do not accumulate unnecessary privileges over time. Tools like IAM credential reports and last used data show whether access keys or permissions are still in use. Periodically removing stale accounts and keys reduces risk by shrinking the attack surface. Beginners should see this as cleaning out old keys from a key ring. Carrying dozens of unused keys increases the chance of losing one, while only keeping what is necessary keeps things manageable and safe. Regular reviews enforce the principle of least privilege over the long term. Incident response is most effective when rehearsed in advance. AWS encourages organizations to prepare runbooks, which are step-by-step guides for responding to specific scenarios. Clear incident response roles should be assigned so everyone knows their duties during an event. Rehearsals like fire drills help teams practice under calm conditions so they can respond confidently under stress. Beginners should view incident response not as improvisation but as choreography. Every person has a part to play, and practice ensures the performance succeeds when it matters most. Documentation underpins all governance efforts. Policies define intentions, standards set measurable requirements, and standard operating procedures describe exactly how tasks are carried out. Without documentation, security becomes guesswork and inconsistent. Beginners should imagine a kitchen where recipes are passed only by word of mouth. Each cook produces a slightly different dish. Written recipes create consistency. In the same way, documented policies and standards ensure that governance is not left to interpretation but applied uniformly. Training is also critical for embedding governance into daily operations. Role-based training ensures developers, administrators, and managers each understand their specific responsibilities. A developer may need to learn secure coding practices, while an administrator may focus on IAM policies. Beginners should see this as driver's education. The rules of the road are the same, but the lessons vary depending on whether you are a new driver, a truck operator, or a bus driver. Governance becomes sustainable when training reinforces it across all roles. Metrics allow organizations to measure governance effectiveness. Key performance indicators might include the percentage of resources with encryption enabled, the number of high-severity vulnerabilities resolved, or the average time to remediate findings. These metrics provide feedback loops to refine policies. For learners, this is like checking fitness progress through heart rate, weight, and endurance scores. Without metrics, it is impossible to know whether governance is improving, stagnating, or slipping. Continuous improvement is the mindset that governance never ends. AWS encourages regular, well-architected reviews, which evaluate workloads against best practices across security, cost, reliability, and performance. These reviews highlight gaps and provide prescriptive guidance for closing them. Beginners should see this as routine health checkups. Even if you feel fine, regular evaluations catch issues early and keep you on track. Governance matures through iteration, not one-time projects. From an exam perspective, recognizing governance best practices is critical. Questions may ask which tools establish preventative guardrails, which handle detective controls, or which provide centralized oversight. Remember the roles. SCPs set boundaries, Config enforces compliance checks, Security Hub aggregates findings, and Control Tower establishes a secure landing zone. Beginners should focus on patterns. Preventative, detective, and corrective controls all play different roles in governance, and AWS provides tools for each. In conclusion, governance in AWS is about codifying rules, automating guardrails, and measuring outcomes. By isolating accounts, enforcing least privilege, segmenting networks, encrypting by default, and continuously monitoring, organizations create secure and auditable environments. Governance also extends into cost, training, and incident response, ensuring holistic coverage. For learners, the message is clear. Governance is not about slowing down innovation, but about providing the rails that keep innovation safe. Codified and automated, governance allows organizations to move quickly while remaining secure. That concludes today's episode of the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode and visit us online at baremetalcyber.com or cyberauthor.me for more resources, including news, mailing lists, YouTube videos, podcasts, and much more.